For those of you who don't know, my name is Brian Koscienski. I am one third of a writing trio. We call ourselves the Novel Guys. We consist of myself, Chris Paisano, and Jeff Young. And we have come up with 4 different pen names that we write under. Since we do different branches of different genres, we thought it'd be a good idea to try to come up with pen names to match the genre that we're writing for, so it doesn't become too convoluted. So for science fiction and fantasy, we write under the pen name of Apollo Harrison. For horror, suspense, and gothic, we are Victor Bloodstone. For young adult, new adult, and fantasy romance, we are Jordan Corvus. And for all things comedy, we are just the DCM. So we started as actually just Chris and me many years ago. We joined up to write together as writing partners. And as we were coming up with some material, we decided to form, hey, look at that, very nice, love it. I see the websites just pop up. Thank you. So Chris and I decided to start a publishing company, a small press publishing company. We figured what better way to learn about the industry than to actually dive into it and check it out from the other side of the table, so to speak. So we formed Fortress Publishing Inc. At the time, at the beginning, we attended a lot of comic book conventions, specifically Pittsburgh Comic Con, back when there was one at the Monroeville Mall / Monroeville Convention Center. So that Baltimore Comic Con was another big one we went to. So when we first started off, we were actually planning on being a comic book publishing company, where we really wanted to break into writing for the comic book industry. We actually had 2 other artists who were going to be shareholders of Fortress Publishing Inc. We came up with 4 comic book ideas. We started pulling in some other artists, taking submissions, figuring out which ones we wanted to use. And then right before the company was going to become official, both of the artist friends backed out, and for some weird reason they took their money with them. It's crazy, I know. So we had to, I know, right? Kevin understands. So we had to pivot. We continued with the 4 comic books, but we bundled them under one issue. So we did that, and as we're going along, but we're looking at printers for printer comic books, we also found some more traditional printers, and we said, all right, you know what, the price isn't all that bad. So we decided to expand our products, and we came up with a couple magazines. We started with Trail of Indiscretion, where we had open submissions. We had short stories coming in from all over the world. We published science fiction and fantasy horror, and we had what we affectionately referred to as the reverse slush pile. I was the editor of it, so everything that came in, I read. But if there was something that was just so awful and so terrible, I had to pass it on to everyone else and make them suffer with it. So it's basically like, guys, here, you got to smell this to believe it. So, so that was fun when we started to publish a little bit more. We adjusted the format. We went from just the traditional 5.5 by 8.5. We bumped it up to more of a magazine size. We added some graphics, and we started to just lose focus and interest in doing that. It became a little unwieldy for us, so we pulled back a little bit and decided to launch 2 different magazines. One was called The Realm Beyond, and one was called Cemetery Moon, where Realm Beyond was back to just science fiction, fantasy, horror, but Cemetery Moon picked up a lot of the horror, suspense, and gothic, because we saw that we had open submissions, well over 60% of our submissions were horror related. And then so we decided to try actually publishing a book. So this also may surprise you, but Chris and I held monthly meetings at our local Hooters. So there may have been beer involved when we came up with this idea, but we got into an argument about zombie stories. At the time, I was just not a fan of zombie stories because the only ones I could really draw experience from were the lame ones where there's brains, where it was just awful. But thanks to these arguments, I expanded my horizons with them, and I do now like zombie stories. But at the time, I didn't. So Chris threatened to write a story where he and I were characters in zombie stories. So that kind of blossoms into this little train wreck here. Scary Tales of Scariness, collection of short stories where Chris and I wrote ourselves in as characters of different horror stories. Oh, Kevin has a question. I don't know how to unmute him specifically. Okay.
I would just point out that on the cover of Scary Tales of Scariness are all three of the novel guys.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. See if I can. There we go. All right, we got myself here. Oh, there we go. Myself at a very, very much younger age. Then we got this. Here's Mr. Chris Paisano, and then of course that's Jeff.
The ever suffering Jeff Young.
Yes. So when we got all our stories together, we at least were smart enough to realize that we should not self-edit and then inflict the world upon that. So we were looking for someone to edit the book for us. So Jeff, the poor guy, he was running a local writing group. So I participated in that for a few sessions. He's very talented. So we asked him if he wanted to edit the book, and I don't know why, but he said yes. So we published that book. We realized it was not quite as painful as we were thinking, so we just started to run with scissors. Jeff started hanging out with us more and more, started participating more and more. So we said, let's attempt to do something a little more adult and have an anthology where we invited some other writers. So the next idea we came up with is TV Gods, where we asked writers to take their favorite mythology, their favorite television show, and mash it together. So Jeff and Lee Hillman are editors in that, and I see at least one person here as a contributing writer to that anthology. It may or may not be Kevin. I cannot confirm nor deny if it's Kevin or not. It's Kevin. So as we started to go along, we did a follow-up anthology for that. Meanwhile, Chris and I were getting some novels published by other publishers. And then, again, Jeff was still helping out. He was helping run the beta readers. So we eventually just said, Jeff, join us. Come to the dark side. We have cookies and beer. So he did. So then, now that we are a trio of writers, it was a hard enough time getting two names on a cover. It's almost impossible to try to shove three names onto a cover in any kind of meaningful fashion. So that was another reason why we wanted to come up with some pen names, just to shorten it from three names to one name. And then now Fortress Publishing has published their first novel that we did as Victor Bloodstone. Let's see if I can get, there we go. That's called Hammer and Blood. It is a horror novel, since the name Victor Bloodstone is there. Basically, just imagine if John Wick fought Jason Voorhees. So that is basically, oh, we do have one other product. So with the magazines, We have ceased both Realm Beyond and Cemetery Moon, and we have come up with another magazine. It is called Mendy, the Post-Apocalyptic Flower Scout. This is a collection of short stories all about Mendy, the Post-Apocalyptic Flower Scout. So it is irreverent, kind of along the same veins as Tank Girl, Harley Quinn, Deadpool, Bugs Bunny, just some fun post-apocalyptic goofiness. So I think that is where we stand as Fortress and or the Novel Guys. Any questions?
Yes, this is Scott. I'm invisible right now, but I'll ask a couple questions. So your working relationship with everyone, how does that work? How do you divide up duties? How do you brainstorm? How do you deal with hurt feelings when ideas get rejected or two decide to go in one direction that one wanted to go in another direction?
That is a fantastic question. Well, like I said, it started with Chris and me first, and he and I were friends long before we even came up with the idea for Fortress. And in fact, since we're guys and we communicate like guys, it took literally 10 years before either of us knew the other person liked to write. And that only happened because of a third party who said, dude, do you know he likes to write? No. Do you know like he likes to write? No. So we knew how to communicate with each other before we even started this. Also, Chris is the better writer, but I'm the better storyteller. So our strengths certainly mesh together and help each other's weaknesses. He is definitely he definitely has the artistic side to writing, whereas I, progress the stories, which is something he is just literally incapable of doing. So our styles mesh together, our communication works well, as considering we are men and we communicate like men. But I think the short answer for that is beer is involved. But then when Jeff came along, he was working with us for quite a few years before really trying to incorporate his writing style. He's a fantastic writer. He won. He is in Writers of the Future, the L. Ron Hubbard series. So he certainly has that talent. And then just recently, we're working on a novel, and there was just one chapter I knew needed to happen. I couldn't figure out how to start it. I barely even knew what I wanted to do with it. I just knew like these two things needed to happen in this chapter. So I went to Jeff, explained it, and then about a few weeks later, he hands us over about 2,500 words. What I thought was just absolutely fascinating was he had the characters do things that I know for a fact Chris would have had the characters do, but he did it in kind of my writing style. So Jeff is just like a weird, beautiful mind freak of nature when it comes to writing. I'm glad he's not here, so no one tell him I said that. But as far as like disputes and disagreements, those are actually surprisingly few and far between. We do have kind of a lead writer mentality. So if someone is the lead writer of the story or a novel or something like that, certainly accept the input suggestions of the other two, but ultimately that's the lead is the one who has to feel comfortable and passionate about the finished product.
Do you tend to have like one lead writer that tends to do the Victor Bloodstone and a different lead writer that tends to do the Apollo Harrison, or do you mix them that way?
The pen names are so very new. We really hadn't had a chance to flesh that out, but I'm just kind of off the top of my head, probably not. Although I know Jeff is just not that much into horror as he is with speculative fiction. So usually I'm running with Scissors as Victor, and Jeff is definitely leaning more towards participating as Apollo, and Chris is just kind of filling in where necessary. And of course, with our stupid shenanigans, all three of us at the DCM, all the time.
This is Scott again. I have a question on how you conceive of marketing yourselves. Like, it sounds like the basic writer is going to go out and basically push themselves, and these are the things I've done, but it's like you guys are creating a brand. So how do you conceive of that brand, and how do you conceive of kind of marketing that brand?
Again, another fantastic question. In fact, I have, there we go. Again, the Novel Guys have basically existed for maybe a year, so we're still very new. The brand still very new. We're just trying it out. Novelguys.com is definitely the best source at the moment to see what we're doing and how we're doing it. If you haven't gone to the website yet, the very first thing it asks, which novel guy are you looking for? And it gives you the 4 options with our names kind of as a subset. But just when we're submitting stories, we say in the cover letter, we're the 3 writers, but this is the byline of whichever pen name we're doing. We do a lot of conventions. We try to do at least 10 conventions a year, like Confluence, where we grab a table, sell our stuff there. We have a fun little brochure that kind of shows 3 of us here. And if there's a glare, I feel like, how about that? Better?
That's pretty
Worse?
good. Yeah.
I'll just do this. But the very first page, first 2 pages, how about that? And it gives a little bit about us, the 3 writers, and then it gives a little bit about the pen names. And then, of course, as you flip through, we got the products that we have out. So it's almost a little bit like a catalog. Tells you a little bit about us, and then, of course, the all-important contact information on the back. So we just try to get that into as many hands as possible. So I guess, Scott, to answer your question, this is still very brand new for us, so we don't have a very clear picture of how to really market ourselves. So we're just kind of stumbling around like a bunch of drunk children in the forest.
Okay. Well, everything you've said, there's kind of like physical. You got your pamphlet. You go to the cons. You try to go to at least 10 cons. Do you do anything digitally, like with social media, Google Ads? Have you gone into that realm at all?
A little bit. Novel Guys has a Facebook page. Fortress has a Facebook page. We do a little cross pollination as best as possible. I've goofed around with Facebook advertising. Certainly get a better understanding of it, how to use it. At the moment, advertising through Facebook is certainly not profitable, but it is generating clicks and views. So there are people at least going to the product page that we're advertising. We have a newsletter that we put out to our subscribers. We try to do it on some kind of regular basis, but for anyone who has a newsletter will tell you that it's very difficult to do something like that on a regular basis. So we put it out when we can. We have a blog. Again, we try to do it with some form of regularity, but we are irregular people, so that comes out whenever we can. And one of our publishers is producing a podcast for us where we just kind of ramble a lot like this. Both the podcast and the newsletter is just called Random Randomness, where we just talk about random things at random times for random reasons. But we only have 1 episode of the podcast so far. We're working with the publisher to try to get, again, some form of regularity, figure out what to do with from there, getting everything coordinated with our producer. And again, since there are 3 of us, and for those Christine is my wife. She participates a lot in this as well. We had mentioned that we need constant adult supervision. She certainly supplies that. So again, Scott, to answer your question, we do attempt some form of digital presence. We're not sure how, we're not very good at it. And we're just taking our time trying to figure out what works best for us.
Yeah,
Well,
I saw
hi,
Larry has a question.
Larry, go ahead.
Hey, Brian, could you tell us how you get, the various artists that you use for your collections and your anthologies? They're all great, and all of those are very liberally illustrated. Do you know this before? Or do you
If I'm not mistaken, I believe you asked about the artists we use.
where do you find them?
Where do I find them? Well, actually, a lot of our cover artists we have met at conventions. Let's see what we got here. This particular one. There we go. This one here, Biggest Bounty. These two are just examples of an artist that we met at. Actually, I do believe it was the Pittsburgh Comic-Con. His name is Koa Beam. He is from Johnstown, so he's local-ish. I can't remember if he ever made an appearance at Confluence or not. But
I think he did, because I think I met him at Confluence. I remember the guy from Johnstown.
yes, you know what? He does come to. He pops in every once in a while, and whenever we have a party or a beer class.
I think that's where I met him at. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember talking with him. He was a real nice guy.
Oh yeah, super great guy. So we met him in person through conventions. We do place ads every once in a while. There was, again, this is stemming back like 15 years ago when we were attempting to be a comic book publisher. There was one website called digitalwebbing.com. It was a great resource for comic creators. So we could put out an ad saying, we're looking for this style of art, looking for pen and ink or pencil and ink. We're looking for this, that, everything else. So we met a few people that way. In fact, we met Dirk. Dirk is, there we go. The cover of TV Gods, and we did this one too. I'm smacking buttons now. Okay. Cover of Satan's Petting Zoo. He we didn't know this, but we met him through digitalwebbing.com, but he was fairly local to us at the time as well. So we got to meet him electronically, but we were also able to meet him in person. So we got to know him as a friend. So anytime we have some covers coming up, we usually turn to either him or Koa. And then, so some of the cover art that we have for our magazines, where we just didn't need anything specific to any of the stories, we would just go to DeviantArt, and we just kind of flip through. If we see an image that we liked, we noticed that the artist said they did it for fun, or they did it for like a class project or something like that, and there's nothing attached to it. It wasn't a commission that they have done. We would just reach out to the artist, ask them if we can use it. We would pay them in a couple copies. We would give them a full page bio. So, just to have something they've already done, do something a little bit for them, so they aren't really doing any kind of extra work for that. And then, we're excited about this. We actually, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the pinup artist Dave Nessler. I know he is a Pittsburgh native. He does a lot of comic book conventions all across the East Coast. I know he does. I just saw him at Sci-Fi Valley convention. That's the one in Altoona. But we actually talked to him, and he's working on a cover for one of our upcoming novels. So we're extremely excited about that. Sorry, Larry, to just ramble on, but so I think the short answer is we know a couple. we meet some online.
Thank you.
I just have a question about your conception of the Novel Guys and Fortress Publishing as a business. Would you guys, if a larger publisher took an interest in characters you were creating or a world you had created and wanted to work with that, would you be interested in that, or are you basically, it's like, hey, this is our business, we're going to grow our business?
Oh, are you asking if I'd be willing to sell out? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The way it's structured, Fortress Publishing Inc. is, believe it or not, an actual corporation. There are shares. It's incorporated, and as such, in the eyes of the government, Fortress Publishing Inc. is its own separate entity. So everything we do, Fortress Publishing Inc. owns the copyright to. So all the novels that we've published, all the short stories, et cetera, are owned by Fortress. So and again, one of those things that just kind of helps make things a little bit simpler, instead of Jeff owning this, me owning that, Chris owning that, and then trying to figure out how to work together with the intellectual property. We have funneled it into one source that owns all the intellectual property. So if there ever is an opportunity to work with a larger organization into turning any of our stories into something bigger, we are prepared for that. We're ready for that, excited for it, and be very willing to accept the large check into our bank account.
Good answer.
It's large checks that are most inspiring.
Exactly.
And following up on the idea of inspiration, so a lot of what you've showed us looks like from Mendy to some of those the post-apocalyptic horror sort of thing. What are your influences? What are your favorite things that really drive your imagination?
Oh God! All right, so we're going way back to young Brian, small Brian, childhood days. I'm an only child. I grew up basically in the forests / wilds of central PA, and my parents, while I was growing up, were both going to school to get better education. My dad came out of the Air Force. My mom became a nurse went to nursing school right after high school. So she was going to school to get her teaching degree. So I was only child. My parents were, usually busy and off or, just not home, living in the forest. So I just had, nothing but time in the forest and comic books. I am a huge comic book fan. I think I haven't taken inventory for a while, but I believe I'm up to 12,000 comic books. My loving wife, thank God she likes them too. So she allows me the space to put them wherever I want. We have a 4-bedroom house, and 1 bedroom is devoted. We call it the warehouse. It's devoted to comic books, Fortress inventory, everything we need for when we go to conventions. So, and to kind of piggyback off that, Mr. Joseph Newcomber asked me where did I get these crazy ideas. I just got a lot of voices in my head. So whoever speaking the loudest at any given time, I listen to that voice and I just start running with scissors.
Who handles the business part of the business? Because that's the not fun part. Who does the taxes and the incorporation paperwork and bookkeeping and all the not fun stuff?
Well, that would be me. So again, we'll delve into the origins of Brian. We'll go back to his younger high school days. I always wanted to be a writer. Again, coming up with the stories, living in the forest, doing my own thing, pretending I am the comic book superheroes, et cetera, et cetera. I always knew I wanted be a writer. So I was at a Star Trek convention, probably sophomore or junior year of high school. And I wish I could remember the writer's name, but he was a gentleman who did some of the novels. So I went to his panel. There are quite a few people there. He looked out. He said, I see quite a few young people in this panel. How many people are in school of some sort? So a lot of people raised their hands. He said, all right, how many of you wish to be writers? A lot of us still raised our hands. He goes, okay, one piece of advice I have for you is in college, do not major in writing. Get a real degree. Get a degree in something that will give you a solid career. Because unless you enjoy working 3 part-time jobs for 70 hours a week and eating box mac and cheese for 3 meals a day, that's what you're going to get when you get a degree in writing. So he had an angst in his voice that told me he's speaking from experience. So I kind of went back, sat down. I was like, okay, I shouldn't be a writer. So I'm good with numbers. I like numbers. Hey, I also like money. I like money dollars. So I'm going to go to school to be an accountant. So I went to Penn State, majored in accounting, got a degree in accounting. It was entertaining. So for my art credits and English credits and all those other electives, I would take all kinds of writing classes, learn about short story, learn about creative writing, et cetera, et cetera. There was one class. First day, I think it was my short story class. Professor looked at the people. He said, "Okay, who is the business major in here?" I raised my hand as the only one. He goes, "So, how does it feel to fail on your very first day?" So it was quite an experience. But I did get a degree in accounting. I did go into public accounting for a couple of years. I did moved into some private accounting. So numbers didn't scare me, forms didn't scare me, and I certainly knew my own limitations. So to get the articles of incorporation, we went to a lawyer. There was just no way I wanted to try to tackle that. But I understood what the lawyer was saying. I understood what needed to be done after that. Believe it or not, for taxes, I just kind of get the numbers ready. We do have a friend of mine who I actually went to. He was my college roommate. So as some quid pro quo favors, he works for beer. He does all of the taxes, files the taxes for Fortress. So when it comes to hopefully to answer your question, so when it comes to doing that stuff, a lot of that does fall upon my shoulders.
I did not in a million years peg you as an accountant.
I know, right? That was one of my favorite games before. I used to be, back when I was an accountant, it was my favorite bar game, was to, when you meet someone, it's like, all right, guess what I do for a living? And they're usually like, oh, you're a bouncer for a biker bar. You work in construction. You're a truck driver. Nope, accountant. So I'd usually get like a free beer or two out of that. But currently, I'm no longer an accountant. I have a very loving and supportive wife. After a particularly bad week at the office, where I just had a physical reaction. I don't think it was anything too major. It's probably just a panic attack. But my wife said, "All right, this is too much. This is too crazy." So now I'm just working part-time at a home healthcare agency as their payroll processor. So I feel like I'm doing something useful and helping some people out. It's only 3 days a week. I get to work remotely, so that's even better. So that affords me a lot of opportunity. So even though I do a lot of the heavy lifting with Fortress and the novel guys, I have the time. I have the opportunity to do so.
Oh, that's great.
Do you have other questions? Anybody want to chime in? Okay, well,
a question.
all right.
Behind you. The cover ad for a copy of Analog is between $1,200 and $1,800. I was wondering if there's any
venue that science fiction readers actually read. And it's a little less expensive than advertising.
We're not making that out at all.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately,
The question was basically about advertising costs in science fiction and fantasy magazines, and like a cover ad in analog is like $1,800, that sort of thing. Is there a worthwhile venue, science fiction, fantasy venue magazine, where advertising costs are reasonable for the average person? I guess I think that's the question.
There are definitely some magazines out there. We do like to look at the traditional advertising in print magazines. I mean, we still love print magazines. A lot of people still love them, and so we do kind of look at that. The last one we did was Space and Time. Of course, this is back when Hildy had it, so I haven't really talked to the new owners yet. But we did advertise with them. There were some other smaller magazines. Again, just doing the due diligence, going out to Rayland.com or Dutrope.com, checking out what magazines there are, what are available, picking up a copy here and there just to see the quality of it, to get your hands on it, see if it looks good and you'd be comfortable advertising in it, and reaching out to them, see what their rates are. Currently for Hammer and Blood, obviously since it's a horror, we've just reached out to a lot of the bigger ones. I was very surprised. I'm sure even if you're not horror fans, you may have heard of Fangoria. That's probably the biggest horror magazine out there. It's the one you see actually in bookstores and on the racks. Their advertising prices weren't as bad as I was expecting. Not sure if we're going to attempt to go for it, but it is definitely something that we could afford should we want to blow our entire advertising budget on that. So hopefully to answer your question is, there are opportunities to advertise within a normal human being's budget.
Does Fangoria accept beer?
So what?
Does Fangoria accept beer?
Oh, well, I wish. But they've been very friendly to talk to. So,
as far as just keying on that idea again, back to marketing. So you have a readership. What do you do to keep in touch with your readership and basically just continue to sell more product to people who've already bought you and already know what they're getting?
We just to kind of go back to what we were talking about before. Just we try, even though it doesn't look like we're trying. We actually do try to keep up with our Facebook pages, our Instagram page, our newsletters, our blogs, the websites. We honestly try to keep them updated. We're just not too good at that yet. We just have to get into our rhythm. Plus going to conventions. So we do have a handful that we do every year that we really try not to miss. Obviously, Confluence being one of them. And then we also have some other ones that we just want to try to kind of cycle, so we don't get too stale at these particular shows, and we can see what these other shows have to offer. Yes, Kevin.
I was just going to ask if, as Fortress Publishing, you're trying to extend your geographic market. I know that Fortress is pretty well central Pennsylvania, down to Baltimore, as far west as Pittsburgh, maybe into Ohio. I'm not sure how far east you guys go, but do you ever try to do a reciprocal kind of thing with any other small presses that might extend your reach beyond what you already have?
It's a great question. Sort of sometimes. Back when we had the magazines, we would again, since we're publishers, but we're also writers as well. We do submit stories. We do seek publication for our novels series and things like that. But back when we had the magazines, one of the things that we did was we would find magazines basically about comparable. So we would try to get to touch with them to see if they wanted to swap advertising, at least for the magazines, a couple bites here and there. But as far as like other publishers, I'm not entirely sure what else we can do to do something reciprocal, unless they have good standing with their local bookstores where they can get something of ours on the shelves or anything like that. Hey, Karen found randomness podcast.
Well, how bad did COVID hit when the conventions were a big part of your marketing? How bad was it for COVID as far as your sales went?
Oh, it was just non-existent. Our sales just there were none. We had obviously there was a nice little uptick on the ebooks, but nothing that would make up for the sales that we lost for the in-person, especially since some of our newer novels have really been kind of taking off. I saw Karen react to Satan's Petting Zoo. At every show since we started coming back, that book has been our #1 seller. So yeah, but again, on the flip side, since we all have day jobs, it wasn't crippling. It was just a little more frustrating. But as I'm pretty sure any artist between the years of 2021 could tell you, they probably have a lot more output to give to the public now, because they had nothing but some great spare time to work on art. And we were no exception. We certainly have, we did quite a bit. I think we cracked, at least I personally cracked 200,000 words for the year 2021. So.
Because you weren't at 10 conventions.
Exactly. So now just to try to get all that stuff together and make it all nice and pretty and something readable.
We'll figure out what's wrong with the technology, but we can't do it real time.
John Thompson.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I've got a nuts and bolts question. Where do you get your hard copies printed? Is there a single source, or is there a single source, or do you use KDP, or do you grind them out yourself in your garage?
We do not have a printer in the garage. I don't think anyone would trust me with that kind of equipment and machinery. That would just be such a bad idea. We do have a couple different sources. As I'm sure everyone knows, there's the two biggest print-on-demand ones are the Lightning Source one and the Amazon one. I can't remember their names. They keep changing them all the time, but we usually use the Lightning Source one just so that we get listed on Ingram. And just between me and you guys, it's just pure opinion. I like the Lightning Source quality of the product more than I like the Amazon quality of their product. But that's we usually just do like a tiny little run with them just to get our books listed. Since we do have, like I mentioned before, I do have a warehouse where we can store physical copies, and we do a lot of conventions. We will reach out to different printers for print runs of anywhere between 100 to 250, so we can get some decent prices on that. The one printer that we've been using a lot, the initials are TPS. I think it's Total Printing Systems, maybe. They have a weird website. It's like tps1.com or something goofy like that. But they are a more of a traditional printer. So when we go to them, we need to make sure we have the specs of the book, the size, how many pages, how many copies, so we need to have the book all but ready to go when we reach out for quotes. There is another resource. If you're truly interested, I can certainly find it, email it to you. It is a aggregator. So, and again, you need to have your specs done and ready to go. You go in, you type in blah, 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 what you want, and then they take that and they just send it out to all these other different printers. And if there's a printer interested, they will contact you directly with a quote. Oh, yep, Karen found it, tps1.com. Yes, they do have awesome customer service. I've gotten to know at least 2 of the women there via emails. One retired, but they're very sweet. Worked with us with no issues with them.
The aggregator is a great idea because that's where they're going job by job. They've got opening on this press and they want to fill it, and they'd rather fill it than not fill it, and they'll give you a better price. So that's an awesome concept there.
Yeah, instead of us running around sending out, requests for 100 different printers, the aggregator would just do that for you. Let's see if I can find it real quick for everybody. But so any other questions? Here, I got it. It's called Print Industry Exchange.
Do you take submissions for novels to publish, or is it just you, Chris, and Jeff, and that's it?
For the novels at the moment, it's just us. We came up with an idea for a horror series that branched out into a second horror series, and of course branched out into a third horror series. So we now have a stupidly ambitious idea of what we want to do, where we have 3 different series all in the same universe. So we're all very passionate about it, but we didn't want to take it to a different publisher just in case odds are we're going to fail at this. So we didn't want to add that extra pressure on ourselves by having another publisher depend on us getting these series done. We have a kind of a loose idea on how we want to release these books, but as everyone here knows, as writers, your muse tells you what to do. So, and if the muse is going to tell us to pivot, we didn't want to upset another publisher by telling them that we're pivoting. So we made that decision to finally, we're going to publish these 3 series ourselves. So we're just kind of getting our legs under us on finding, the good editor. Now that Jeff has come to the other side, he's now one of the writers. So now we need to find, a different editor. And if we're working with another publisher, they also have their own editors. So that's something we're losing by publishing it ourselves. And that's something that we need to go capture. So far, we found one, and she's been very wonderful. So. And again, getting cover art, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just trying to, again, stumble around, figure things out, experiment on ourselves before we really ruin other people.
Okay. Well, I have a question. This is Scott again. What about beta readers? When you finish something, do you have a group of beta readers, or do you just read it yourselves? Like, how do you know how you're doing?
All right, give me a second here. I screwed something up.
Okay.
There we go. I'm back. Okay. Yes, we do have a solid core group of beta readers, and it's funny since Christine is definitely our biggest fan, and since she lives with me, as soon as I'm done with the chapter, I hand it to her. So Christine is our alpha reader, so she gets the raw end of the deal. So she gets to see how the sausage is made, and sometimes that disturbs her. But so she is again, since she is very loving, she is very honest. So I know she's there. I'll just bounce some ideas off her real quickly. She'll look at some chapters. She'll tell me exactly what she likes, what she doesn't like. And there was one book that we were working on. I told her the idea, and she flat out said, "No, you're not doing that." So I was like, "Oh, okay." But she explained why I wasn't doing it, and she was right, as she so often is. So we pivot there. But we do have a great group of beta readers. We have at least five to eight. Even though they are friends, they are more than happy to tell us when we are being stupid. They, in fact, love to tell us that. We had Christine loves this story. We had one of our friends. She's a writer as well. She did crack the New York Times bestseller list. So for one particular novel, we said, "Hey, do you want to be a beta reader for this novel?" She said, "Sure." So she read it. She came to the meeting. We do in-person meetings where we cook them burgers and hot dogs and give them beer so they can tell us how stupid we are. It's a great deal for everybody. So while at the beta reader meeting, the beta readers found quite a few things that they wish to see changed. So by the end of the meeting, we were talking to our professional friend, and she was just like wide-eyed in shock at how blunt our beta readers were and how much they were telling us to change. She was just like, "Oh my God, they were telling you to rewrite whole chapters." But obviously that's what we're looking for. That's what we need in the beta reading. I'm sure all of you as writers know that you just need someone outside of yourself to really give you an honest opinion as to what they're seeing from your writing. So Scott, again, took a long way to get to, yes, we have beta readers.
Thank you. So what haven't we covered? What haven't we talked about that you'd like to talk about, and let us know?
I really don't know. I feel like I've been yapping this whole time. Oh, hi, Kevin.
I've got another question.
Sure.
I noticed you're doing maybe Flower Scout of the Apocalypses. But are there any other magazines that you have on the horizon? Any other thoughts of other magazines? Or is it going to be Mendy is the only periodical that you guys do, and everything else will be among the 4 different venues of novels?
Right now, we are just going to focus on Mendy as the only periodical that's coming out. We keep bouncing ideas around for different anthologies. We certainly had a good time with TV Gods. The responses have been great. We're just thinking about either, possibly doing a TV Gods 3, or if we should try to do another anthology of some sort with a different topic. But as far...
Tales of fantasy.
And more drunken conflict monkeys. Yes, we have been bouncing some ideas around for that. But like I said, at the moment, Mendy is the only periodical. And since it is so far invite only, we are officially inviting everyone on the call if they're interested in learning more about Mendy, the post-apocalyptic flower scout, and possibly submitting a story idea. Just let me know. I can put you in touch with Jeff. He is the editor of it. But since it is a single character, not single character, but a single focused universe, obviously there are some rules to follow. So if you are interested, we can send you the rules. I know both Kevin and Larry are familiar with the rules and universe. So if you wanted to talk with them first to see how ridiculous we are, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to tell you that we are indeed ridiculous. Yeah, hi, Larry.
Yeah, I just want to say, Ryan and the rest of this team, very kind to have invited me to some of the stories. Apologies, including the universe. I want to thank you, Ryan, because that kind of thing, this kind of invitations make me feel I have a little bit of work.
I'm sorry, I missed a little bit of that.
Okay. I was just going to yell.
That's okay.
I wasn't sure if he
That was
was
the computer.
complimenting me or berating me. Either way, I'm sure it was worth it.
Just talk toward the computer.
Okay.
There he is.
Ryan, I just wanted, to thank you and the rest of your publishing team for, inviting me to submit to, I think it was three anthologies, including Mendy, or maybe two maybe, but that kind of thing, those kind of invitations make me feel like my writing has a little bit of worth. So thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. We're certainly very happy to have you. We love supporting all of our writer friends, and everyone else. Like I said, no exception either. You're welcome to participate, Mendy, if you have some ideas. And like I said, feel free to talk to Kevin and Larry. I'm sure they can fill you in on some of the gaps or potholes or their canyons.
Well, Brian, you don't have to tell us the rules of submitting to Mendy, but a lot of us don't know Mendy. So tell us about Mendy in the Mendy universe.
Oh, sure. Mendy. So when she was 10 years old, all of the apocalypses hit at once. So every apocalypse you can imagine, apocalypses you can't even imagine, they all hit Earth all in one time. So over the next 10 years, she has survived and even thrived in this post-apocalyptic world by following the tenets that she learned as a flower scout, brutally, savagely, and violently. So in the current setting, she's about 20 years old. There's a cast of supporting characters around her. Like I had mentioned earlier, this is just something, it's irreverent. The Tank Girl, Harley Quinn, Deadpool, Bugs Bunny. If you have a post-apocalyptic story that has a little bit of comedy in it that you wanted to poke around with, feel free to contact us. One of the bigger rules is every story, she should be doing something to try to earn a merit badge, and in this world, a Flower Scout badge. So what we like to do is each story, she's trying to earn a badge, and it has to be a flower. It doesn't matter if the flower actually symbolizes anything or even really means anything, as long as it means something to you or means something to her that you think it should mean to her. Certainly go for it. We've had some great stories. For example, Larry's story was Mendy doing a book club that also had an alien invasion in it. So it was a lot of fun. It was a great time. We had, of course, since she's a Flower Scout, one of our other writers did a cookie run. So she had to traverse a wasteland to pick up the cookie order. So it was just want everyone to have fun with it. Writing as writers, I think we all enjoy writing, and we love to have some fun with it. As a writer, when I go out looking for anthologies, looking for magazines to submit to, sometimes they're a little deep, as I'm sure you all know as well. So we just wanted to add something that was just a little bit lighter, a little bit, try to give you a little smile.
See around that here. Well, first of all, thank you, Brian. Does anybody have any other questions for Brian there?
Brian, do you have any questions for
Do
us?
you have any questions for us?
Other than like, what's wrong with you people for inviting me to this? I mean, you're crazy. No one invites me to anything. Jeez, come on. No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it to be a part of what you got going on. Love going to Confluence. Like I said, we ever since the first one we went to, God, when was that? 2007, maybe. Ever since that one, we haven't missed one.
13 years ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. So, but other than as long as Confluence is alive and in person, we'll do our best to make it there and participate. I do see a lot of familiar faces. I can't wait to see them all again, hopefully in person. Obviously we'll have a table at Confluence. I know I have a few panels. Still waiting to see for if I have a beer clutch. If there's any, readings or book signings, anything like that. But yeah, I'll be there, and we will all have fun.
Well, since you've never been invited or barely get invited, things I'll come up with 2 more invitations for you. So I'll be
all right.
And I also liked hearing that you cooperate with other small publishing stuff. I definitely encourage you to get in touch with Space and Time. That's now published by Angela Rico Smith, and she's a wonderful person.
Wonderful.
I'm sure she'll be glad to cooperate with you. As will we at Dreamforge. We'll be glad to help spread the word as well. And we're perfectly willing to just do some ad trades or whatever. So
Fantastic.
We'll be in touch with you about that. So all that's just wonderful. And I'm definitely going to get my copy of Menu Flower Scout because I want to see what that world's about, because that sounds like a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, we will definitely have plenty at Confluence. So
okay, I'll wait to do that because maybe I can get an autographed copy if I buy it.
Oh, certainly. Okay. And if you want, I'll even autograph it as myself.
No, he wants one from Victor Bloodstone.
Hey, either way, I just may sign it as Kevin Hayes. That'll be fun.
I just insisted, no matter how many signatures, they're all in different pens.
We can do that too.
Okay, well, again, thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing you at Confluence, and we will look forward to helping you as a small publisher just help spread the word about yourself and other small publishers, and more strength in numbers.
Absolutely.